Hello and welcome to another episode of Lander County Confidential. This is episode number 16 and it's called Integrity and Fishing. Lander County Confidential is being brought to you on WRVO, Reno Viola Outdoors, and it's the most progressive radio network, fishing network out there today. And you can listen to it by going to Reno Viola Outdoors and clicking on the link. Listen to this show and others, and just enjoy the variety of stuff that we have available on WRVO these days. And Lander County Confidential is it's geared towards fishing products and also stuff that just happens in Lander County. So, anyways. I'm your host, Mike Lynch-Staunton. Like I said, this is episode 16. It's called Integrity and Fishing. I've wanted to do this episode for quite a while now. One of the reasons is because of a few things that have happened over the last month or so that have really started to make me wonder about just a specific category of anglers out there and where they get their mindset from. I really have a hard time trying to figure out what the motivation for some of these people is, other than their lack of self-esteem, maybe, or something like that. But it comes down to over the past, say, 20-odd years, 30-odd years of fishing, more than a few incidents have led me to believe that there's a portion of anglers out there that have a certain lack of what I would call integrity or morals or just plain old backbone. And they see doing certain stuff as something that is just normal in their day-to-day life. And this is just my opinion. This is just my way of seeing it. If you disagree with it, you disagree with it. You know, if you want to send me an email, go ahead. But it's not going to make much difference. So, anyways, probably it's not going to make much difference in your way of thinking, and it's certainly not going to make much difference in mine, unless you can come up with a really strong argument as to why fishermen shouldn't have, or anglers shouldn't have, integrity. And by what I mean by that, well, let's just go see what integrity is and what it entails. By a dictionary definition, one would consider integrity to be, just honesty. So this is a Wikipedia definition of it. Integrity is a concept of consistency of actions, values, methods, measures, principles, expectations, and outcomes. In ethics, integrity is regarded as the honesty and truthfulness or accuracy of one's actions. Integrity can be regarded as the opposite of hypocrisy, in that integrity regards internal consistency as a virtue and suggests that parties holding apparently conflicting values should account for the discrepancy or alter their beliefs. The word integrity stems from the Latin adjective integer, meaning whole or complete. In this context, integrity is the inner sense of wholeness deriving from qualities such as honesty and consistency of character. As such, one may judge that others have integrity to the extent that they act according to the values and beliefs and principles they claim to hold. So in itself, integrity could be considered a value system that people have. And then you look at, why would I discuss integrity and fishermen at the same time anyways? I mean, what the heck does integrity have to do with fishing? With the advent of a whole bunch of new electronic devices such as GPS, some anglers' quest for fish and the process to go about it has been severely short-circuited, in that if you recognize the boat and you think that they're good at fishing, As you're going by, you merely push a button, and once they've left the area, it's free and clear for you to do whatever you want. So, does that show that the guy has integrity, or does it show that he just has this ability to drive around and push a button? I don't know what it shows, but to most people, but what it shows to me is that the guy doesn't really want to learn how to fish. He just wants to catch fish and maybe post it on his Facebook page, or maybe he's on a message board or something like that, and he needs to stroke his ego from that. I'm not sure, but I'm sure if we asked a psychologist or a therapist, they would definitely have something to say about this person's self-esteem or the lack of self-esteem. And I personally think that integrity is a lack of self-esteem. In this day and age of so much temptation, I'm not trying to get spiritual here, or not spiritual here, but religious here or anything like that. With the amount of temptation that's out there with the internet, the access to the internet and information and stuff like that, myself personally, I don't really know why somebody would want to fish that way. But I'll give you a couple of instances of where I think people lack integrity, and this comes from a few reasons. One of them, just look at some of I guess it comes down to a hero worship attitude. I think that is portrayed in the U.S., and I'm not trying to crap on any society or anything like that. It's just, to me, it seems that the United States has this propensity of wanting to produce these programs or movies where it's a hero worship. You're rooting for the hero. I mean, everybody wants to be a hero in this. You've got people that are survivors of this, survivors of that. I mean, cancer is a red badge of courage these days. It seems that you're never really. I don't know what it's kind of weird, but it seems that. In order to get any recognition these days that you're a fighter or whatever, you got to get cancer and survive cancer. Well, I'm not going to get into a debate about cancer, but I'm sure there's a lot of ways to prevent it for some people. So anyhow, does that come down to integrity? Yeah, of course it comes down to integrity, because if your doctors in the medical profession are saying, don't do this, this could cause this, and you continue to do that, well, what do you expect? I mean, if they say drinking 4 or 5 Cokes a day is going to lead to a higher incidence of prostate cancer, then, geez, I think drinking soft drinks every day would be something that I would stop anyway. So unless I really want to get cancer, and then I want that hero worship of I'm a survivor. I don't know. I don't get it. But some people think that, that's the way life is. So let's get back to why I've got such a beef on about fishing and integrity. And it comes down to years ago, I was out in Shirley's Bay. I was out there. I'm a little 14-foot fisherman. And I was enjoying myself, catching some walleye off the back of some of these humps. And I see this guy coming out. And I've got electronics on. I've got 2 graphs there. I have one of the original GPSs that Lowrance originally made. So, I know all about GPS. I've been using GPS since the mid-'90s. So I'm sitting out there on this little hump fishing away. And I noticed this boat coming closer and closer and closer. Now, I didn't think anything about it. And then the next thing I noticed is the guy's about, less than 100 feet away from me. And I could basically talk to him at that point. Not going to get into nationalities anyways, but he was not wasn't a Caucasian anyways. And I'm not trying to be prejudiced here or anything like that, but there was another incident later on, a few weeks later, and it was not the same person, but it was the same nationality of. And I'm not trying to get prejudice here or anything like that, but it just, I deal with patterns and behaviors and stuff like that. So when I see a pattern occurring, it leads me to a conclusion. So, sorry for the conclusion, but that's the conclusion I had to draw. Another incident was my wife and I were out on a lake, and she just caught and released 2 big smallmouths. These guys were easily a quarter mile away from us when they saw us catching some fish. They weren't catching anything, obviously, so they just moseyed on over, and these guys were within a casting distance of me. I got so upset that I lost it. I ran up one side of the guy, ran down the other. I used a lot of expletives and racist comments. I wouldn't say they were racist comments, but they were racial comments. And, I didn't feel good about it. But then again, I mean, the guy was within a boat length he was within 20 feet of us. I threw a spinnerbait out, and I caught his line, and I took his tube. I cut his tube off. I asked him to move away, and he just basically said, well, you know what, you don't own the water. You're right, I don't own the water, but you know what, my spinnerbait owns this area, so guess what, back off. So this was just the original starting point of where I'm thinking of. There's a certain portion of anglers out there that have no integrity, and if they believe that it's a spot that they can catch fish on, and it has no name on it, or they, I shouldn't say it's at that person's spot, because I don't enjoy that either. But it's almost like I gotta make up a show and give a categorization of certain anglers. I like to find my own areas to fish. I don't like to fish community holes. I don't like to fish in a crowd, and I like to fish away from a whole bunch of other people. In saying that, I have a tendency of finding my own areas, and because I have a boat that's pretty identifiable now, it's easy to say, oh, look, there's Mike over there, and what's he fishing? A quick run by the area, a push of the button, and once the other person leaves, then that's free and clear. Another incident, when I was fishing Renegade, there's 3, we were fishing Newborough, and Newborough was a new lake to some anglers, and it wasn't, there weren't big weights coming up from it and stuff, and so I had a strategy of hitting smallmouth. We spent a lot of our time in India. Well, we spent all of our time in Indian, and a lot of other teams just spent their time in Newborough and the other lakes, and we were there with another team, and they won. We came in 8th. That tournament, there's probably maybe about 6 to 10 boats in Indian. Go 2 years later, and again going back to Newborough, and just in pre-fishing, there had to be 30 boats in that lake. I come off an island, I find a little weed patch, isolated. I never saw anybody else. I fished the island for about an hour. I never saw anybody else fishing that little weed patch. There's another boat across in another bay on a point, and I recognized the angler. As soon as I left that area, but I just threw a jig down. I felt the bite. I shook it off. I kept going. Went into the back of Benson. 20 minutes later, come out of Benson, and the guy that was on the point was sitting right on the spot. And I'm sure he GPS'd it at that point as well, too. Now, probably fortunately for me, he didn't catch anything off of it, and he didn't consider it to be worthwhile. But it just goes to show you that there's some people, some anglers out there that use their electronics merely to find other people's spots, not to find their own. That's what I call integrity. Another incident in a club that I was fishing a couple of years ago. I'm sitting in the yard, and one of the other competitors comes, this is on a Sunday, I think, or something like that, and it was down on Big Rito, or he was down on Big Rito with his girlfriend, and rolls into the yard, and I said, yeah, was you on? Oh, down on Mississippi catching some bluegills? He said, no, I was on Big Rito. I said, oh, is trout open? He says, no, we weren't fishing trout. Okay. I said, well, bass doesn't open till next week. Yeah, so what? Okay. He says, well, I wasn't in the shallows like the other guys were, and I wasn't throwing topwaters like the other guys were. I said, well, what were you doing? He says, well, we were out in the weed line in 5 to 8 feet of water throwing Senkos, and we turned the hooks down, and we just brought the fish up to the boat. So we weren't really fishing for them. and I looked at him, and I couldn't believe it. I really, at that point, I couldn't believe what was coming out of his mouth. And two things happened. One of them, I was sponsoring the guy. And I thought to myself, and that's what I basically said to him. I said, as a sponsor, I don't appreciate this. I don't think it's something that you should be doing. And like I said, as a sponsor, I don't want you to do it. And he just sort of poo-pooed me and said, oh, well, whatever. And I was dumbfounded. I just stood there and looked at him. I told him I lost it. I didn't lose it. I was annoyed. I told him, I said, this is ridiculous. That's fishing out of season. No, it's not. No, it's not. We weren't targeting them. I said, you just by your own admission, you were targeting them. Oh, well, we didn't put any in the boat. We didn't put a hook in any, so we weren't really fishing for them. I don't get that. I really don't. Either you're fishing out of season or you're not fishing out of season. So anyways, I took his words that he said to me. I sent them to my buddy at the MNR. He sent that to enforcement, and the response we got back from enforcement was, if they had seen somebody out there on a weed line targeting bass and not pulling any out of the water, but targeting them, they would have come over and investigated it. And if they had given a ticket, if they give, I just screwed that one up. Anyways, if they would have ticketed him for fishing out of season. Now, his response to me on me telling him that was, no court in the land would ever convict him of that. And my response to him was, I don't give a rat's behind whether any court in the land would do anything about it. I got my name on your boat. I don't want that. I don't want any connection between you fishing out of season and my name on your boat. That just that's not, as a sponsor, I don't want that. So to me, it just sort of showed the character of this person. And a couple other things that they did during that season led me to believe that, there's even less of a moral character in this person as well, too. Same thing, we were doing the Berkeley B1 there a couple of years ago. We're fishing down a shoreline. We fished in shallow, didn't get anything. We started fishing out deeper, and we're going down this edge, and all of a sudden it drops off, and I get a bite, and there was a boat in about 150, 200 yards from us. As soon as they saw us catch a fish, they were right out on it. They were out onto our hump. I shouldn't say our hump. They were out and fishing the hump that we were fishing and the drop off that we were fishing. They eventually went on to win the tournament. And I got to say, we helped them because one of the first fish they caught was apparently a 6-pounder and was their big fish for the day. And I'm not going to get into a pissing match I've done Bass Masters where we all shared on this. And I'm not dumping on them at all. They did what they did. It was a competition. There was no rule about how close you can fish to each other and stuff like that. So, I didn't get upset at that point. I didn't get annoyed or anything like that because, like I said, the rules are the rules, and if the rules state that you can fish beside the other guy, then I guess you can fish beside the other guy. But what it does show is it just shows me the level of competition in these people, in this team anyways, and that... And I'm not putting them down for that at all. Don't get me wrong. I probably do the same thing being in that competition because that's the way I am, and that's the way I would hope that my other competitors would be. One of the reasons why I've thought of doing this program or this podcast was, this is post Tiger Woods. This is post Lance Armstrong, and just to seeing in what happened to those guys, it just leads to me believe that in the male ego, there's such a drive for, I guess, recognition of what you've done that some anglers, and I'm not just saying this to be males because I've seen some female anglers out there do some pretty stupid things as well too. But what it shows me is that these guys will go to extreme lengths in order to either win a tournament or find a big fish so I can post it on my Facebook page or post it on my fishing my fishing message board page, so all my other buddies can say, "Atta go, nice fish." Did it change anything in your life? I don't know, probably not. Did it make you a better person? I don't know, probably not. But did it get you a whole bunch of attaboys? Yeah, it probably did. And what did that do? I'm not sure. But for somebody who has low self-esteem, it probably artificially bumped them up for a while, but it really didn't do anything for them in the big scheme of things. A lot of these anglers I've seen will say, "Oh, look at the fish I caught," and then they'll send you an email in the background saying, "Where did you catch your fish?" And if you're stupid enough to tell them where you catch your fish, the next time you go out to your spot, that guy's sitting on your spot. I've seen it many times, and I've talked to other anglers where it's happened as well too. So some of these fishing message boards are these guys are shooting themselves in the foot because they want this recognition, and then they want all the people to say, "Oh, like, where'd you catch your fish? Can you take me?" All the rest of that. And then you do that for them, and what ends up happening is you just lost yourself a spot because they've told their friends as well too. It happens all the time, and why it happens in fishing and why anglers do it, I guess it's a psychological reason that for some is it's what they need in order to make them feel good about themselves. I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for them because they cannot find fish on their own. And a lot of these guys, that's what you'll see. They'll be the bank beaters, and they'll never get out of 3 to 5 foot of water, and they'll never see them fishing offshore unless it's on a hump that they saw somebody else fishing off of. Usually their electronics are crap because they put them on manual or they put them on automatic, and they never learn how to use their electronics. And they do the Lance Armstrong. They cheat. Instead of winning a competition or a tournament or going out and doing it without cheating, they think as long as I don't get caught, I don't get caught. How they live with themselves, that's for them to decide. But I've discovered that it's not. I find I have way more. I feel much better about myself if I take the time to study the map, figure out where I want to go fish, go to that area, figure out whether there are fish there, and then learn how to catch them considering what the conditions are. Rather than going, "Oh, I saw a guy fishing over there last week and I'm going to fish it." Now, don't get me wrong, I've done the same thing. And the reason I'm saying this and the reason I'm doing this show is because what I'm saying is, in doing that, I didn't learn anything. I didn't learn why the fish were there. I didn't learn how to fish those fish. I didn't learn any of that. What I learned was how to fish somebody else's spot, or not really fish somebody else's spot. I learned how to try and fish somebody else's spot, because who's to say that you're fishing it the same way that that person was when they originally caught the fish there. I have when I fish with guys in tournaments, and unless they're part of the team and we've been fishing year after year after year after year, if I'm fishing a new body of water and I've never fished with the guy before, I have a rule, and I say to him, I said, "You know what, if we find a spot together, you can fish it anytime you want, and I can fish it anytime I want. I hope we come under that, we have that understanding. If it's a spot that I've found, please don't fish it during the tournament, unless you've asked me or, told me, I want to fish that between this time and that time. I've got no problem with that. But if it's your spot, I'll leave it alone. If I need to fish it, I'll ask you for it. I'll ask you, can I fish it this time? So had an incident many years ago in Mississippi. And this is funny because this is from a team. This wasn't from the team. This is how you can split the team up. Anyways, this was one member of the team. We were coming down. This is when Mississippi had a lot of rice on it. We were coming down this rice line, and meet them coming the other way. They said, "Did you catch anything off this?" I said, "No, but I caught a smallmouth out in the middle there." And so we passed each other. And after the tournament, he comes up to me. He says, when we passed on that wall of rice, I said, "Yeah." He says, "We limited about 15 minutes later." I said, "Oh, okay." And I always kept that in the back of my mind. So, and this is where it comes down to fishing integrity, because you know what, I've been there and I've done it myself. So this is why I think I have a certain amount of knowledge or experience on what happens. So I've got another tournament. This is probably 10 years, probably about 10 years later. And I'm doing a Bass Masters on Mississippi. I'm the boater, so it's up to me to pick my lineup. I did some pre-fishing. Again, used some community spots. We hit the first couple of spots, got some good fish. And then what I decided was from 11 o'clock till 2 o'clock, we were going to go out and fish that hump, or fish that wall of rice. And that's what we did. And we got about 20 fish off of it in this one little area. And it was because of the type of weed that was there. But while we're fishing it, we see this boat out in the middle of Mississippi. And it comes by once, about a half an hour, comes by again, stops and sits out there for 5 minutes and keeps going. Comes by like 4 times. And I wonder, what the hell is that? And then the last time it came by, I recognized it. That's these other guys. So after the tournament, we finished third that day. So we had a good day. And so we finished third, and the guy that was wondering whether it was telling me about told me about the spot and that, comes up to me and says, "You're fishing that rice?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, that's my spot." I said, I did exactly the same thing. I laughed at him. I looked at him and I laughed at him. I said, "You're kidding me." He goes, No, I'm serious." I said, No, you're kidding me. I said, "I didn't see your name on the water. I didn't see your name anywhere around there." And he says, "Well, that's my spot." I looked at him. I said, "Listen, you made a mistake before by bragging to me that you had limited out on that area after we passed you. So I use that to my advantage. If you're upset about that, too bad." And I told him straight to his face. And guess what? The next tournament we have here, I'm going to be there from 11 o'clock till 2 o'clock. So if you want to fish it before or after that. And if you don't like that, too friggin' bad. I mean, I couldn't believe the guy. This is the same guy. Okay, this is the same. This is what it comes down to. And this is what really gets me. This is the same guy that says to me earlier, "Oh, yeah, well, you know that guy." And I said, "Yeah, he's a well-known fisherman, and he had won a bunch of tournaments before with Ottawa Bass and stuff like that." So they were on one side of this area. I know exactly where they were as well, too. I'm not going to say it, but it was probably Ebbs Bay, and they were on the other side. And these guys were in Ebbs Bay. The other team was in Ebbs Bay, and they had just nailed about 4 or 5 good bass. And he said you could hear them talking about it. So what they did after the team left is they went around in Ebbs Bay, and they caught every one of those fish. They put them in the live well, and they took them home, and they ate them. Okay? This is what the guy told me exactly to his words. Okay? We took them, and we put them in the live well, and we went home, and we ate them. And boy, did they ever taste good. So the day of the tournament, the other team goes into the Ebbs Bay. They can't catch any fish at all, or don't catch any fish at all. The guy's upset. He told me, he says, the guy looked like he was going to cry. And I went up to him and I said, you know those fish that you were catching in Ebbs Bay? And he goes, yeah. He says, well, we heard you doing that. We went around afterwards and we took them all out of the bay. We caught every fish that we could. Put them in the live well and we took them home and ate them. That's what I'm talking about. Is that integrity? Or what is that? That to me is pretty much just stupidity. Not only you're cutting your own throat because you're taking those fish out of the system so they're no longer going to be spawning, but you play this stupid, silly game and you think, oh, you know, and then you throw it up in the other guy's face. I don't know what that is, but that's some kind of twisted, weird kind of psyche that's mean and cruel. And not only that, it's kind of stupid as well, too, as far as I'm concerned. Why would you do something like that? Why not just throw them all in the live well and move them? Why eat them? It makes no sense to me. But anyways, that was that guy's mindset. And then he has the nerve to go to the other person, to the team that found the fish, and tell them that's why you didn't catch any fish there. That's a lot of anger, man. That's what that to me seems like a lot of anger. Like, why would you hate this team so much that that's what you wanted to do with it? So, hopefully you guys can see where I'm going with this, because with the advent of GPS, it becomes more and more and more prevalent every day. There's so much prevalent that there's nothing anymore out there as your own spot, because like I said, when somebody sees you on it and they go by you, boom, it's here's another one. This is the other one that I love. I love this one. This is why I like tournament fishing so much, because you see this stuff and you just shake your head and go, what the hell is wrong with some of these guys? But I'm not saying it's the majority. It's probably 10% of the angling. Okay, you know what? I don't know whether it's 10%, but I'm hoping. This is just a hope that it's only 10% of the anglers out there that have this kind of weird, twisted mental disorder that they think, it's all about how many fish I put in the boat and nothing else other than that, And basically, probably, if dynamite was semi-legal, they'd be fishing with dynamite as well too. Because to fish out of season, to kill fish so that another competitor can't get them, just to me seems illogical to me. So and I've seen the opposite side of it, because I've seen the Bassmasters where there's 6 boats sharing this one hump out in front of Calendar Bay, and then that leads to another one, because that was a club event. We were all going up to, this was a Bassmasters event, we were all going up to North Bay. One of the competitors, there was an angler who lived in the area, and he had given a couple of spots to a couple of the other anglers, and it was meant to be shared through everybody. So first day of the tournament, after the tournament, we're all talking about how our day went, and I'd heard that this guy had given up a couple of spots to our club, and that it should be shared with everybody. So we're sitting there and having the round table, or whatever you want to call it, type thing afterwards, and this one guy says, oh yeah, we were fishing that hump that what's his name gave us. And I looked at him and I said, what? He goes, yeah, we're fishing that hump out in front of Calendar Bay. I went, well, everybody was supposed to be told about that hump, and everybody was like, how come you only certain people knew about it? And he said to me, oh, sorry, I guess we didn't tell you. Thank you very much. I'm part of the club. We're here representing our club. We're fishing as a club, and now you're fishing as an individual. Thank you very much. What is it? It's is it the competition thing? Is it the fact that, I understand you want to win. But do you want to win to that extent that you ruin a friendship? Is that what you want? Because if that's what these guys want, then, that's what's going to happen. And then they get pissy about it and go, oh, well, why did you get that way about it? Oh. Sorry for not agreeing with you that I would fish out of season, I would kill fish, or I go to somebody else's spot and I'd burn their spot. Sorry for that, guys, but that's not something that I want to do. If that's something you want to do, great. Let me know now so I can, distance myself from you and stuff like that. So you can hopefully by this point see where I'm going as far as, do fishermen need integrity? I think so. Is it something that's as useful as a tool, as a jig or a spinner bait in your tackle box? I think so. Especially if you're doing tournaments, or especially if you're teaching younger kids how to fish. I would hate to see what these guys would do when they had kids in the boat. I'd hate to see what these people would advise younger anglers on how to fish. I would hate to see how these people go about pre-fishing for a tournament and not breaking some kind of rule or law from the ministry. Is it just tournament fishermen? No, it's not just tournament fishermen, but I think tournaments, in the simple fact of what they represent, make this category of anglers become desperate. And that's what I look at it. I look at them and they're desperate anglers. And until they want to change their ways, that's the only thought. That's the only. Same thing we did a big bucks years ago on Mississippi Lake, and it was they didn't post the weights, or no, they were posting the weights if you went up to the area. So we went up to the area. We had a good smallmouth. We went up to the area. We went up to the weigh-in. Asked the guy how much the biggest fish was, and didn't realize that the guy in the boat was not one of the guys checking the fish. He was just an angler there. He was weighing in his fish, which was smaller than ours, which actually won the hour. But instead of saying the weight that he had, he said, he had a 4-pounder. Ours was under 4 pounds, but still, he was weighing in 3.5-pounder, and ours was 4 3/4 or 3 3/4. So we would have won that hour, but we didn't because we didn't think the fish was big enough. Hindsight's 50-50 or 100%. So what I did later on in the next time, and this was just totally by accident, we were heading in, and another competitor came up to us, and I put my hand up and said, hi, at the same time. He said, how much? He thought I said 5. They had a 4.5 or 4. We had a 3.5. We tied for the first hour, and we ended up winning the first hour, but like I say, in a tie, and he went away thinking we had a 5-pounder. So, did I do it on purpose? No, I definitely. That time, no, I didn't do it. Did we benefit from it? Of course. Did I think about it later and go, could I do that again? Yeah, I did. So I can see how that mindset would develop. You go pre-fish out of season. You're crappie fishing. You're bluegill fishing. You catch a couple of largemouth. You go back every year. You catch a couple of largemouth. It becomes somewhat addictive. You're there by yourself. Nobody sees you. What's the harm? What's the harm? What's the harm? Well, may not be any harm in the short term, but in the long term, who knows what can happen. And then there's the long-term damage that's been done to your personality, because at this point, you will put yourself in a position where, you'll either bend the law or bend the rules. And who knows? Sometimes you may get caught doing it. So, is it going to stop? no, it's not going to stop. People are people. Some people will change, hopefully, if they become aware of what they're doing and how it affects not only the fishery, but their own personality. But you know what I found is I have found the tendency that these people cling together. They form their little cliques, and then they spread their innuendos about the people that they don't agree with, and that's the most insidious part about it, is they form their little cliques, and then they think, okay, well, we're a team of anglers, and we catch big fish all the time, and rah 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 rah. Probably the guy's never done anything for charity, never devoted any free spare time, or volunteered for anything in their lives. I'm not sure, but I think it goes along pretty much with that. So, like I say, it's now that we have guys like Lance Armstrong that have denied for years and years and years that they never did anything wrong. They never took illicit drugs. They never took performance enhancing drugs. They never did any of that. All the other people that are around me, are against me, or, they're not speaking the truth, or they have their own agendas or whatever. It just goes to show me now that that's the Lance Armstrong attitude. That's the way I've called it in my world. It's the Lance Armstrong attitude. It's the desperate Lance Armstrong attitude, because I guess he was so desperate to get that sort of acknowledgement from the crowd and stuff like that. I can imagine it's probably very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? But, seeking attention is an addiction. And any kind of addiction can be very harmful to you, to the point where you do these desperate things just to, embellish yourself, just to show that, oh, geez, I fish 300 days a year. Wow, big whoop. What else is your claim to fame? And don't think of this as just a pissing match between me and some other anglers or anything like that. I just, okay, so you fish 300 days a year. In Canada, it's kind of hard to figure, fishing 300 days a year and still have a job and stuff like that. So, it almost seems that how many days you fish a year is another one of these. Oh, I fish 200 days a year. I fish. God, it's almost like it's almost like it's a in order to be in that club, you have to fish so many days a year. I don't understand it, but for some of these guys, that's another one of their things that pump them up. Well, I fish all these times. I fish all this. I fish all that. Like, yeah, okay, good for you. But in the long run, what difference does it make? So, and in the long run, what difference does me talking about integrity in fishing make as well too? But I felt that I just had to get it out. I had to say something about it, because to me it's something that over the years I've tried to get away from fishing the community holes, and I try to find my own spots, and I try to find stuff that other people don't fish, just so I can, fish new areas and stuff like that. So anyways, I think I'm pretty much done on this subject, but hopefully it's illuminated some people's about other anglers out there. This week's fishing tip is they're still hitting worms on Mississippi, so if you're going to go out and fish Mississippi, you can troll around all you want, but it seems that the worm harnesses down deep on some of the flats are working very well. You have to go very slow, though. That's what I've been told. Very slow. So, but anyhow, that was good to get off my shoulders. I really appreciate you guys listening to me this week. Hopefully it wasn't too dull and boring, but it's something that I think needs to be said. There's a lot of anglers out there that are certainly lacking in a certain amount of integrity, and hopefully someday they will. If they don't, too bad, but it's to the detriment of the other anglers out there that do have integrity. So thank you very much for listening to me this week. My name is Michael Lynch Staunton. This is Lanark County Confidential, being broadcast on WRVO, the Reno Viola Radio Network. And I will see you next week.